Happy Friday. John Lorden here with your weekly episode of BrainScratch. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel here today. Very troubling case. We've got a family in a lot of pain right now. And we have some big questions because with this case, we're not even quite sure if a crime has been committed. It's one that you might have seen. It's been kind of kicking around the headlines for the past few weeks about a young woman that was found in a U-Haul truck, deceased. We're going to get to that, but first I want to make a quick stop at petitions.whitehouse.gov and ask for your help to demand that the Department of Justice investigates corruption involved in the Christian Andreacchio murder investigation. If you guys have been fans of the channel for a while, you know that around CrimeCon last year, I released another episode on this case. I had actually done one previous to that as well. Did a collaboration with Danielle Hallen over at her channel. We worked a live event at CrimeCon where it was a PI experience with Sheila Wysocki, and we were looking into this case. We were privy to a lot of details and tried to raise exposure using those details. Now, Kendall Ray has also put out some new information on this case. There's a lot of new interviews that she's collected, and right now only one of the two parts has been released so far, but she's making this push to get this petition going. And between all the work that I've done on this, all the work that Danielle's done on this, all the work that Kendall Ray has done on this, I'm really hoping that you guys would be motivated to join us, not the least of which is to mention Culpable, one of the biggest true crime podcasts of last year covering this case exclusively. So if you're a fan of any of us or the Culpable podcast, or if you are just willing to help a family pursue justice, that's really what it boils down to. Please use the link in the description box below. I can tell you guys, it takes literally 15 seconds to sign this petition. You only put in your first name, your last name, and email address. They send you an email that you have to confirm. I'm telling you, I did it within 15 seconds. I know you can too. So I hope that you will join us in the YouTube true crime community, the podcasting community, and be someone that's going to do more than just listen. Be someone that's going to help this family seek justice for their deceased son. So thank you guys so much. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at today's case. This young woman is Ashley Manning. Around November of 2019, her family thought that she went missing. A few months later, they would find out that it is much, much worse. But let's roll the clock back a little bit and check out a Facebook post from that time. This is over at Missing Persons Cases Network. On November 13th, Ashley got on a plane from Dallas, Fort Worth, to Los Angeles International Airport. She has not been seen or heard from since. There is confirmation that she made it to LAX, and police are working to pull video footage to see what car she got into and run license plates. Ashley lives in the Huntington Beach, Costa Mesa area, so she could be in Orange County. From what I understand on this flight, she also had a 5-hour layover in Las Vegas. I've also looked up some address history for her. Seems like a girl that really moves around quite a bit. We're going to learn she also liked to travel on top of that. She did actually live, at least according to the records I'm finding, in Nevada for a while. So when I heard that there was a layover, I was wondering, did she meet up with someone that she knows while she was at the airport? Did she decide not to come all the way back to California where she's living at the time? But here it's very clear they have confirmation that she does actually make it back to Los Angeles. Then we get this post January 10th of 2020, and this is posted by the Anaheim Police Department on their Facebook page. The body located in a moving truck in Fullerton has been identified as Ashley Manning, a 29-year-old female resident of Anaheim. The cause of Ashley's death has yet to be determined, pending toxicology results. And if you can see in this comment down below, this is something that a lot of people are thinking. This might be the result of an overdose. There's kind of what I consider people thinking about what's the most likely story here. What could this be about? How do you find a body in the back of a U-Haul like this, and what could have happened? I think the situation that this post and a lot of other people are discussing is if Ashley could have been involved in some type of drug use. The overdose happens, the people that are with her are freaked out, and they actually try to hide her so that they don't get in trouble. Is that really what we have going on here? I don't know. The other interesting thing about this post is it's talking about the cause of death has yet to be determined. And we're now, a few weeks away from when this post was made. There still really isn't a cause of death that's determined in this case as well. So it would appear to me that it's not something obvious, or that her remains had decomposed to the point where if it was something obvious, they're not able to process that or to make a firm conclusion about that at this time. But they do keep mentioning toxicology results, and that's not unfamiliar in death investigations like this. Other cases I've looked into, sometimes the autopsy results will be delayed for months because they're waiting for toxicology, just because they want to make sure when they release the information that they include everything at the same time. So is that what we're going to see happen here? I don't know. I'm really not seeing ETAs on when that toxicology is going to be done. It really depends on the case. I've seen some cases where that only seems to take a matter of weeks, and then other cases where that can take a seriously long time, like 4 months or even longer. But let's continue with more information on this and see what else we can learn from the local area. This is from KTLA, which is a local television affiliate in the area. Ashley Manning of Anaheim was reported missing in November, Sergeant Shane Carringer told KTLA. He said the report was taken out of Los Angeles County, but he did not know any additional details. Manning's body was found in the back of a U-Haul. The U-Haul had been rented and abandoned in Anaheim. Now, what's a little strange about that is that the missing persons report is taken out of LA County because Anaheim is in Orange County. So why do we have the jurisdictional difference going on there? I would have to assume that her home, or at least her last known address, might have been in Los Angeles County. That's kind of the only thing that makes sense. One of the newscasts that I saw had her listed as living in Newport Beach, which I think Newport Beach is actually Orange County too. Yeah, according to Wikipedia here, Newport Beach definitely in Orange County, California. So I guess the only other possibility about why that report was filed in Los Angeles is they went with the last location where she was known to be. Some other information I'm seeing says that she's actually active on social media a few days after she gets back to LA. So I'm kind of wondering, how important is the analysis from LAX? Whatever car she got into, I don't see a direct correlation between whoever picked her up from that airport and her winding up in the U-Haul. I think it's worth looking into, certainly because they should be trying to put a timeline together of everything from where she was last known to be to leading up to her discovery in the U-Haul. So I certainly think it's worth the effort. I just don't know that we're going to find the kind of magic bullet by tracing down whoever picked her up from the airport, because she did seem to be active online at least a few days after that. But let's continue with some more information over at patch.com. Abandoned or delinquent trucks are normally taken to the company's Fullerton location at Orangethorpe Avenue and State College Boulevard so employees can inventory the belongings, Carringer said. The employees searching the truck came across the body and called Fullerton Police about 1 p.m. Wednesday, the sergeant said. It seems like there was other items that were in the back of the truck. I've got this photo to show you guys. You can see that they've got a dumpster kind of pulled right up to the truck. So I think the employees were going through it and just kind of throwing out anything that they thought was trash that was left in the back of the truck. It does also raise a bit of an important question in terms of how exactly did the employees find the truck? Some of the explanations I'm reading said, well, the truck had been missing for a while, so they decided to go out and drive around and find it. If you've ever lived in the Southern California area, I mean, the place is sprawling. It is highly populated. Anaheim has over 300,000 people. Do you really send out employees driving around street to street to find your U-Haul? I'm just wondering about that because I'm wondering about the possibility that there was some kind of tracking device that could have been on the truck. And is that what actually helped them locate it? If that's the case, then do they have more information about where the truck went while someone had rented it? So that's what I'm wondering and all that. But let's go ahead and continue with the article here. Investigators have deemed it a suspicious death at this point, Carringer said. Whether or not it is a homicide is still to be determined. Certainly a big question in this case. We don't really know if it's a homicide. However, we're going to find out that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a crime that's going on here. So just going to the map real quick, last known address that I've seen on her is Newport Beach, and one of the news stations confirms that. I don't know if that's accurate information. I get the feeling that she might have been drifting around a little bit because of all the different addresses I'm seeing for her, so it's possible she was living somewhere else. We have the Anaheim area up here, and the truck was certainly found in the Anaheim area, and then they took it back to the Fullerton station, which is up here. So that's kind of the layout of what we're looking at. Even if she was living at that Newport Beach address, I don't know that she was there that particular day, so trying to put together some type of timeline for you guys on this is extremely hard. And right now, law enforcement's keeping pretty tight-lipped because of this aspect where I think they don't really know if they need the public's help. They don't know what direction this investigation's going in at this time. They're certainly not really asking for the public's help. I'm seeing a few things posted that seem to suggest the family is asking for the public's help. And part of the reason why I thought it would be helpful to do a video like this on this case today is because someone certainly knows what happened to her. Possibly a group of people, or possibly that someone has spoken to other people. This information should be filtering around some group out in Southern California. So I'm hoping by being part of raising exposure to this that we can help motivate that person to call the authorities. We do have contact information in the description box below. This girl was found wrapped up in boxes and plastic, and I'm seeing in some reports it also says duct tape. Pretty terrible thing. And then to be dumped in a truck and the truck dumped at a location. I don't think any of us wants that to happen to our family members. So I'm hoping someone out there has the info, might get their heart in the right place to pick up that phone and get that info in, because it looks from the outside like this investigation needs that level of help at this point. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, this is an extremely tough week for this family. They had a wake for her on Monday, and they had her funeral on Tuesday at Clark Funeral Home in Yorktown. It seems like she is actually from the New York area. I don't know why she was flying in from Dallas. I don't know if she was visiting someone out there. But like I said, I'm seeing addresses for her all over the place. But let's see if we can learn a little bit more about Ashley from some of the articles here. Her name was Ashley Lynn Manning. She was born in 1990 in Saratoga Springs. The family later moved to St. Charles, Illinois, and then settled in Katona. Continuing with some more info from her obituary, she attended Roanoke College and University of California, Irvine, where she received a full academic scholarship. Through soccer, sports, and activities, Ashley had the opportunity to travel to quite a few places, including national parks in Colorado, Utah, and California, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and with her soccer team to play in Milan, Italy. Ashley loved the beach, especially the Jersey Shore and Cape Cod. That might explain why she's living in Newport Beach also. Ashley was bright, had a fun sense of humor, was full of life and adventure, and always taking on challenges in pursuit of what she wanted to accomplish. She is survived by her sister Taylor, her brothers Stephen and James, and her nephew Seamus, and her parents Denise and Steve Manning. She's also survived by her grandmother, Virginia, and many loving aunts, uncles, and cousins. One thing I haven't been able to find is any type of professional profile on her, so I'm not exactly sure what she was doing for her occupation at this time. There is some talk that I'm seeing in some threads about the possibility of drug use. One of the news reports specifically calls out that it did seem like there was a drug charge specifically related to cocaine that happened in April. But it looks like that charge was eventually dropped when she agreed to go into some type of treatment program. But not really, at least from what I'm finding, I'm not seeing like a serious drug history, someone that was, living on the streets or anything like that. I don't think we're talking about someone at that level. So that's part of what's hard to understand about this case when we are thinking about the possibility of some type of accidental death related to a drug overdose or something like that. I just don't know how practical it is to apply that to Ashley. There's just nowhere near enough information about that out there. And quite honestly, I don't know if the stuff that I'm reading is even accurate on web sleuths where people are commenting about the possibility that she was using drugs. I do think what's accurate is a news report stating that, they've looked into her past and they did find that there was a single cocaine charge, but that's certainly not enough to lead me to believe that that could necessarily be at play in something like this. Jumping over to NBCLosAngeles.com, Manning's relatives shared Facebook posts back in November pleading with the public to circulate her photo and help track her down. The posts say Manning boarded a flight from Dallas to LAX November 13th, 2019, and hadn't been seen since. They believe she had some Facebook activity in the days that followed, and then silence. So that just raises the question for me again about this missing persons report being filed in Los Angeles County. I mean, if we've got her using Facebook in the days that followed, if she truly was living in the Newport Beach area, I just really think that it probably should have been filed in Orange County. I don't know if that really delayed anything in terms of the processing of this case. It doesn't seem like it because we know the U-Haul is discovered on Wednesday, January 8th, and by January 10th, they've already identified her. So I don't think that that's a big breakdown in the process here or something. I'm just wondering why Los Angeles was where the missing person report was filed. If, yes, we have her go to LAX, but clearly, days that followed, she's doing Facebook activity. I don't know. I'm thinking she got home or got to a place where she was staying with someone else, something along those lines. There is an interesting question I'm going to save for the end that is kind of related to that. But jumping over to losangeles.cbslocal.com, the body was later taken to a crime lab along with the truck. Detectives will piece together everybody who was in possession of the truck and the timeline that this truck was out and who had it and where it was, Carringer said. What I think is really important about this is to touch on the description that I'm hearing about how her body was left. First of all, I am seeing some places that are saying it was a severe amount of decomposition, but they weren't really citing anyone, so I don't know how much to lean on that information. But being wrapped in cardboard and then being wrapped in plastic, that is protecting a lot of evidence, I would think. Anything that's been attached to her body, if she has DNA under her fingernails, and I mean, it's kind of like they're preserving all that evidence in the way that they've wrapped her. But outside of that, she's in a truck. So we've got evidence that could be potentially collected from the vehicle, fingerprints. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that are going on here in terms of evidence. I'm sure the crime scene investigators on this are just going nuts with the amount of information that they have to process on this. But that's also making me wonder about what's really going on with this as a criminal act, because it doesn't seem extremely well thought out. I mean, first of all, just the basics of it's a U-Haul. It was rented by someone. There is a record of that person's name. As a matter of fact, jumping over to the next article I have lined up for you guys at NBC4i.com, police say they have the rental history but aren't releasing that information right now. So it's clear we know who rented the truck. The only kind of wrench in the gears that I can see with that is if the truck was rented with a stolen identity. Someone had someone else's credit card and driver's license and rented the truck under that person's name. But we're not really hearing anything like that necessarily. One little possibility that we're going to touch on around that. But it's a terrible way to try to hide a crime if we're really looking at a crime here. And then when you talk about the basics of this case, at a minimum, there has to be some form of crime here because someone is trying to cover up the fact that she's dead. Is that really a criminal act? We're going to touch on that by the end of this video too, but let's continue with the article. Authorities don't know how long her body was in the U-Haul vehicle, and cause of death hasn't been determined. That's got to be a really tough aspect about this when they're talking about putting a timeline together as well. Now, obviously, they know when the vehicle was rented. So if the vehicle was rented in, let's say, late December or something like that, first of all, you'd have to wonder, was she alive up to that point and she had just kind of stayed off Facebook and just didn't contact her family for a period of a month after she got back? We don't know enough of the social information to really know if that's accurate or not. I went and looked at her Facebook page, and it looks like everything has basically been removed, at least for people that aren't friends. It has been converted to a remembering page, but there's practically nothing for posts there. So I can't really tell you on the social front, was it normal for her to stay in contact? So that's a really interesting aspect to this, because it really depends on when that U-Haul was rented. And once again, I go back to that thing about how they found it. If the U-Haul was rented back in, let's say, November and it went missing, what made them wait 2 months before they decided to go? Do you think someone rented it for a month and a half and then they waited a couple more weeks and said, okay, send someone out to drive around and find that truck? There's just a lot of possibilities here, and I'm very curious to know more details on the rental, just in terms of firming up the timeline of possibly when she was alive. But then you can also consider the intent of, what if someone rented that truck in particular because they wanted to move her? What if we do find out that it is a stolen identity, and we find out that she was deceased possibly before the time that the truck was actually rented? So a lot of different possibilities with this case. Unfortunately, just not a ton of detail. But jumping over to abc7.com, police said despite the suspicious circumstances, it is not clear yet if the person died in a homicide. Right now, they can only classify the discovery as a suspicious death. Even if we don't have a homicide, we still may have potential crimes here we're investigating, said Sergeant Shane Carringer with the Anaheim Police. Ultimately, somebody's family is going to want answers as to why their loved one was found here in this condition. Definitely. Who the heck wrapped up this poor girl in cardboard and plastic and duct tape and left her in the back of a truck and dumped that truck somewhere? And why? Of course the family is going to be wondering this. Over at lohud.com, memorial contributions may be made to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, or through the Ashley Manning Scholarship Fund set up through FC Somers Soccer, and they have an address. I'll include that in the description box down below. Kind of coincidentally, sometimes I have these weird kind of synergy things happen around cases I'm working on. I actually got a letter from St. Jude's today, so I am going to make a donation to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in honor of Ashley, and I'll do that just as soon as I'm done filming today's video. They're an organization that I already like to support. I haven't done it in a while. This seems like a really good reason to do it. Now, there's another thing that I kind of ran into that was troubling when it came to this case, and that is this article over at foxwilmington.com. First of all, this article states that her body was recovered from the back of an abandoned U-Haul truck nearly 3 months ago, where I can tell you guys, I've looked through every article that's been posted about this that's available right now. That's certainly not true. The body was found January 8th. We're talking just a few weeks ago. But according to this article, she was found 3 months ago, wrapped in a tarp in the trunk of the moving truck. What moving trucks have a trunk? I have no idea. And they even have a morning here, on the morning of October 17th, and they say that the police said this in a tweet. Well, this is an actual hyperlink to the tweet, and when you click on that, body located in a moving truck in Fullerton has been identified as Ashley Manning. They're not talking about October 17th. They're not talking about her being in a tarp, in a trunk. I don't know what is going on with this article, but we're not done yet. They have another point down here. Anaheim Police Department responded to a dirt lot on the north side of Santa Ana Canyon Road in Fullerton at around 10:45 a.m. to assist California Highway Patrol with a suspicious object found in an abandoned car, officials said in a news release at the time. Now here, they also have another hyperlink on the news release. And when you open that up, yes, it does go to anaheim.net. Yes, it does talk about a human body discovered in the trunk of an abandoned car on October 17th. This is clearly a different occurrence. This is clearly not related to the case that we're talking about, but for some reason, Fox Wilmington has mashed two separate cases together and written out this specific narrative. Now, I don't know what direction Fox News works in. I did find another Fox News article that was essentially this same article, but they had corrected these things and basically just chopped out these sections that are completely wrong. I don't know. It's really kind of bizarre to me to find an article that is completely just butchering the story like this. On top of that, they have this point down here. Manning's sister said in a December Facebook post that her family last heard from Ashley on November 13th. Did the person that's writing this actually even read through this once? Because you're saying the body's found on October 17th. You got her family saying that they're talking to her on November 13th. None of this makes sense. And I just wanted to include this in this video so that you guys remember, if you're looking into cases for yourself, even something that you'd typically be able to lean on, like a Fox News source, admittedly a local source, but still a Fox News source, can get things extremely, extremely wrong. And you really need to look at multiple sources and consider those. As a matter of fact, those wrong pieces of information somehow wound up in the Daily Mail's version of this. U-Haul staff tracked down the missing truck to Santa Ana Canyon Road west of Gypsum Canyon in Anaheim. Now that's the same information from this other car that was found there. And now it's been propagated to what a lot of people look to as a news source as well. So it was kind of, it doesn't happen all the time, and I've never seen it quite mashed up that badly where it's two completely separate cases. But I just wanted to point that out to you guys on this case if you do go looking into it for yourself. So one big question here. Is there a crime here? If this is some type of accidental death or natural death, is there some form of a crime here? We're going to stop over at shhouselaw.com and learn a little bit about California Penal Code 152 PC, which is concealing an accidental death. Penal Code 152 PC is the California statute that makes it a crime for a person to conceal or attempt to conceal an accidental death. They've got some examples down here. A person chooses not to tell a police officer information about where a body is. That certainly kind of applies here because we got someone dumping a truck that they know has a dead body in it and they're not speaking to police. A parent discovers that his child accidentally overdosed on prescription pills and flushes the pills down the toilet. There we have something kind of close to, if we do think this is an accidental death related to a drug overdose or something along those lines. We've got a person that is effectively hiding the mechanism for the death. Do we know if that's going on in Ashley's case in particular? Not necessarily. We don't know if she did die in the U-Haul. That's something else I ran into when I'm looking at the threads talking about this, is apparently there are some people that will rent U-Hauls and either live in the back of them or take them as kind of mobile parties and just do drugs in the back of them. Are we talking about that in this situation? I don't know. I'm just letting you guys know what I'm bumping into in terms of researching this. The third example here might be a bit more fitting. A mountain climber discovers that another climber died due to a fall and covers the body with a camouflage tarp. We certainly have something like that going on here. We've got her not only physically covered with boxes and plastic and tape, but also left in the back of a truck, and then the truck left somewhere. So I certainly think that Penal Code 152 is going to come into play with this case at a minimum. And I think there might be other charges on top of this that will stack up with this charge as well. This charge in particular is a misdemeanor. The crime is punishable by up to 1 year in the county jail and a fine ranging from $1,000 to $10,000. So not exactly the steepest of crimes But like I said, I believe that this would be one of several different crimes that would be stacked up if charges were to be pressed against someone just for trying to conceal an accidental death. I'm not even making the assumption that we might actually figure out there's something criminal that happened here. I'm hopeful that if nothing else, the family is going to get their answers one way or the other on that, because I'm sure already just the several weeks of not knowing what happened to Ashley has to be extremely painful, on top of dealing with her loss and having her funeral and doing all these things. It's just this giant question mark. We've got an episode of 3 Men that's coming out soon where I interview the sister of someone that's deceased, and she makes a really good point about she's just stuck. And despite the fact that, you know, they've had their memorial service for her sister, she still feels like their grieving process hasn't even started yet because they have these questions and they don't know the truth of what really happened. And I certainly think that applies in a case like this as well. I know that this family is certainly experiencing some of that. Possible legal defenses for this charge. The person was unaware of the death, or they were unaware of the body. We're not going to have that in this case because we've got someone taking active steps to conceal the fact that she's dead. Or the person acted under duress, which would insinuate that there's another person there. So still criminal charges are going to apply at some level. I don't know. I think, like I said, I think there's going to be more than that. I did want to call out this particular article, and I'll put it at the top of the sources. If you only look at one other article on this case, make it this one, losangeles.cbslocal.com. They've got an excellent video segment here. It's pretty much the one that all the other articles took pieces of and put quotes in about. They've also got a very good write-up on it here. I just really appreciate that they took some time and dug in here. I literally probably had 30 more sources that I looked at for this case, and none of them were contributing any information of their own. It was literally just repeating the same things that we've already covered here. So I was hopeful that there would be someone kind of digging into this case a little bit more. I think CBS Local is probably the one that did it the best in this particular instance, although KTLA News also did a pretty good job as well. But really, there's just a lot of other news sources that weren't being particularly easy. So I mentioned a question a bit earlier that I wanted to ask you guys, and it was related to her using Facebook after she got back after she got back to the LA area. Where is her cell phone? And I want to give a big thank you to 1MT Royal at Web Sleuths for asking this question. Such a great question on a case like this. This seems to be an easy case to solve. Where is her phone? Not only where is her phone, where is the information about where that phone went? Did she have her GPS on? Did she have Google location tracking on? At a minimum, were they able to put some trails together based on tower pings? I think that's a really good question. Obviously, there's no detail on that that's been released at this point, but I'm hopeful that might be a tool in helping investigators with this case. And finally, I did find, I kind of went searching on, do U-Hauls have GPS trackers built into them? I mean, this technology has been around forever now, and a truck could be a pretty expensive asset. And considering that there seems to be a subculture of people that like living in the back of U-Hauls and partying in the back of U-Hauls, I'm sure those trucks go missing. Do they actually have their own GPS tracking devices? I found these answers over at Quora. Yes, but not at every dealer. U-Haul has taken the initiative to integrate GPS tracking into their trucks recently, thus the limited availability of the feature as of now. I'm sure it will only grow from here on. Someone answered that who is a former employee for U-Haul. He worked as a customer service rep from 2010 to 2015. His name is Justin Wells, and he said new vehicles being produced will have trackers. They may spend the money to retrofit newer trucks, but certainly not the entire current fleet. So does that apply in this case? I hope so, because that would be great for the investigators to have that information, to have that tool. I'm wondering if that's a possibility, because we know that U-Haul was able to track that truck down somehow. Hopefully it wasn't that some local citizen just called it in and said, hey, one of your trucks has been sitting here for, a week. Would you come and get it? I'm really hoping that they had some type of GPS tracking capability there, or that her cell phone is effectively giving the same thing. Now, another thing I ran into on the threads on this is on the same day that she is found, Anaheim Police Department puts this post out, and they call it Wanted Wednesday. They have this post about James Amos de Jesus, and he's wanted for false representation and possession of dangerous drugs. Some people are wondering if this is related specifically to her case. And I don't think it's all that crazy of a thought. If they, found the U-Haul makes the call to the PD gets there, they say, hey, who rented this? And they say, it's this guy. Maybe they would get that out instantly and try to get people looking for this guy right off the bat, and not necessarily associate it to the instance of the U-Haul or Ashley being found. But that's literally all we have. I know it's a very weak connection, but people are talking about it, so I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about it as you're going through this case as well. I will include the link to Ashley's Facebook in the sources down below as well. But like I said, there's just not a whole lot that's going on with this page that at least I can see, not being a friend of it. And I did want to end with a post from her sister, Taylor Manning. This was posted on January 13th. My beautiful, strong, protective sister, may you rest in the sweetest peace. Each day without you here, the hole in my heart grows a little deeper. I will always love you, and I will always defend you until we meet again. And once again, just my heart really goes out to the Manning family and to Ashley's friends. There's a lot of people that are hurting right now, and I really, truly hope that the answers come your guys' way very, very soon. And once again, I just want to put the appeal out. If you have any piece of this puzzle, please, please, please pick up the phone. Call it in. Help this family out. They're in a terrible place not knowing. Before I go, I need to thank several new patrons helping to support the channel, because a lot of these videos get demonetized by YouTube. All of last week was basically demonetized. Big thank you to Sarah Alba Medina, Lori Keith, and Anna Levanovskaya. Hope I said that right, Anna. I really rehearsed it a couple times before. Another big thank you to Gravity Head Zero for increasing their pledge. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that over at www.lordandarts.com. And just a quick reminder, now that we're at the end of the video, remember that petition I talked about at the beginning? 15 seconds. Please, please, please help us all out. Take care, everyone. I'll see you back here on Monday with a brand new episode of Case Cracked. We're diving into a bit of a historical case for Australia. We're going to do an international one for our friends down under. Hope you guys will check it out. I'll see you there right here on the Lord and Arts channel.